You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Jayden Daniels has been named the Davey O'Brien National Quarterback of the Week. The last 2 weeks, 11 total touchdowns. Everybody is seeing it. It clearly is clicking. What is it that is clicking from your perspective?
Well, first off, now this is the cat that when he transferred that you wanted, right, Matty?
No doubt.
We talked about a little inconsistency as far as pushing the ball down the field. We saw him take shots last week and this past weekend. They're making some big plays. I also think the last 2 weeks, 11 of those rushing and throwing touchdowns, right, in 2 games. Combined, he's playing like a monster. This is the guy, Matty, I remember, and I know a lot of people may not have saw much of Jayden Daniels when he was a freshman, and we've talked about this out in the Pac-12. But I saw a lot of him and talked to Herman Edwards about him when he was there. And he was so dynamic, he could do anything. And coming here, it seemed like early just trying to find his way around, right? We were questioning, can you got to vertically push the ball down the field with these great weapons? And look what it's done. It's expanded even his legs, which are dominant anyway. It's expanded their domination physically. And it's all, and they, crushed it running the football last week with him and the backfield. And it's also made the vertical passing game come more into play. They've done, and the underneath stuff becomes more run after catch. So I'll tell you what happens is it's now we're 8 weeks in or so. You're with a guy who understands the passing game and Brian Kelly, and the light switch goes on, Matty. I don't know when it clicks for some. Some it's game 2. Some it's year 2. Some it's game 9, where you go and you say, okay, I understand not just that receiver, what he's doing, but the concept of what your coach is trying to accomplish, that he's trying to maximize your skill set, put into his system. And when it comes together, it's a pretty beautiful thing. Sounds cheesy, but it is. And you're seeing a guy now who's enormously confident, who is extremely skilled. And now that he's applying the concepts that Brian wants in his offense, and he's one of those, he's Cincinnati and Notre Dame, that's him. And he's got a guy now who can beat you in more ways than one, which is another thing he loves. I see his confidence rising, but his ability to get through decisions and quick with urgency without being hurried. He looks like he was a good player the first handful of weeks. Now he's expanded the game. He makes them very dangerous and also makes it very difficult to defend because now you got to defend the full field, not just Jayden Daniels.
Yeah, Sean, I'm going to assume you haven't watched the All-22, so I'm going to ask you a question I think you're going to be able to answer even without having done that and me prepping you on it. But I'm curious if you've noticed a difference in play calling as well as the season's gone along with LSU.
Yeah, I do. Now, and I don't have the, like I said, not just all 22, but the raw numbers that the analytics or the tendencies that tell me on 3rd and 7 they're doing this. I don't have that in front of me, but
right.
With the naked eye, and I would imagine Brian and that staff can tell you, yeah, we've expanded. But isn't that the sign of a good coaching staff?
Yeah.
When you see what you got and you say, okay, right now we can't do this just yet. Now, physically we can, but the mental side of getting not just one cat or 4 dudes, we got to get them all on the same understanding what we're trying to get accomplished here. And what happens then when you see it from whether it's an all 22 or watch it closer and go back and compare and contrast. If you did a split screen and say, the small highlights that here's how we did the first 5 games or so, and the last few games they started against it. And why? Because they've also seen a light switch go on with him, which enables them to expand. It's like anything else. You start to expand in any job you have. You got a sales staff. They know this part of, okay, let's expand to this. Let's expand to the next level. And it applies to quarterback too. What can he take on? What is he? I'm not just talking about mentally. I'm talking about physically, emotionally, a new system, happen to be a leader and a captain right when you walk on campus. All those things that you never had you haven't been there 2 years to learn all the stuff. And the coaches knew. So it's not just Jayden. It's where everybody else jumps into the fray here and gets rolling. And, yeah, I think that and you see the result in the game. A real good Ole Miss team. They physically manhandled. They out-finessed them. They did everything. They knocked Jackson Dart around. I mean, they did everything you need to do. And so it permeates through the whole team. You can expand everything. And when your offense is going like this, changes the defensive coordinator's thought process and vice versa. So I do. and I as a coach who coaches kids, when you start to see them, even when you're training them without 11 on 11, is, oh, okay, we've got that down now. How to get the ball out of your hand in the 3-step drop and under center in the quick game, or the gun in the 3-step and hitch and working comebacks or getting on the edge. All right, now we don't have to keep talking about why. We now are to the point where it's natural for us. Now let's get to the next level of that part of the play. And you can see with Jayden Daniels and this offense, they're becoming really dangerous. And I think if you'd asked me this 4 weeks ago, I wouldn't have expected this big a quantum leap in the passing game. And the entire offense is expanded, and it's nice to see.
So here's the other. If I have two more questions. One is the follow-up to that is what happens in the next 4 weeks, and what does that mean for Jayden Daniels' future? Meaning, my understanding is he came here with the intention of being a one and done, like he was going to be here for a year and go. The way the first 4 to 6 weeks of the season went, that would have been hard to see. Like he would have benefited from another year. You see what's happened the last 2 weeks. If he replicates that over the next month, what type of draft prospect is Jayden Daniels?
Oh, I think he's an intriguing one, but I would love, selfish purposes, I think he just another year with Brian Kelly doing what he's doing could become a dominant player in college football. He already is, but I'm talking about now. Listen, if all of a sudden, Matty, he goes on a roll here and they dominate and he plays out of his mind the next 4 weeks or whatever it is, and all of a sudden his representatives say, "Listen, you're going to be a second-round pick." I'm just throwing, rounds out there. I don't know how they're feeling about him now, especially the last 2 weeks. But when you look at him and say an intriguing skill set, there's always room for that guy. And you say, well, look how quickly he's made these quantum leaps. So there's still a lot of growth in this offense and in his game. If all of a sudden somebody tells him he's going to be a high pick, maybe he'll want to jump and go because, well, that's the nature of what people do. They play to go get paid, and I understand it. But if he feels like he's a tweener, why wouldn't you stay at one of the best football programs and best fan bases in the world, become a hero? You can build this team now. Brian Kelly, now you start the season where you left off, which is 10 weeks ahead expansion-wise with the offense. And all you're doing, in my mind, is heightening your draft status and where people come out, they're talking about you early as opposed to late. I almost, depending on what happens, but for me, selfish purposes, I think one more year development with that head coach and this system and with that talent, I think it would serve him really, really well. But if he goes off and somebody says, we'll get you a late first-round pick, you've jumped into the Hendon Hooker and that group fray, then I get it. But no. I think one more year would serve him well at LSU, especially with Brian Kelly as his head football coach and the way this offense has started to move.
Hey, before you go, we'll go deep into the matchup next week. Do you have an early thought on LSU Bama?
I think that we have seen good quarterback play with versatility, Matty, gives them trouble. And now we're starting to see a more physical nature on both sides of the ball. Now we know LSU's got it in them. Early matchup is, of course, you've got to control their quarterback, who's a freak show himself. I'm going to tell you what I see. I think, while we always look at Alabama's physically dominant, look around. People are moving the football on them, and they're not tackling it well in the back, and they're not tackling as well as I'm used to. So you expand it. Now, here's what I wouldn't do. I sure as hell wouldn't go in and say, let's play it safe. Hell with that. Do what we've been doing and put pressure on them like Tennessee did and apply pressure to make them have to score every time. Are they capable? Yeah. Can it happen? I don't know if it'll happen again to a Nick Saban team this year, but there's something missing in the physicality and the tackling that I'm used to at Alabama. Great players, but the parts may be a little bit better than the sum, and I think they're giving up more points. I think the ball can be moved on them. Just don't be in a 21-point chase mode in the first quarter, or then it'll get miserable. Keep it close, and then we'll have a conversation in the second half. That's my early return.
He's Sean Salisbury. We'll go deeper in LSU Bama next week. We can break down specific matchups. As always, man, we appreciate so much the time. Saving the turtles out there. He's on Twitter at Sean Unfiltered. You're the best, man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, brother.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.